My name is James Carter. I had spent 73 years building a life of careful decisions, in hard work, and love for my family. That quiet autumn afternoon in our Ohio home, I never imagined the moment would come when my own son would stand before me, a calm and composed, and utter words that felt like a cold blade to my chest. This house isn't really yours anymore. In that instant, everything I thought I knew about my life, and my family, and the foundation of trust I had painstakingly laid began to tremble. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't slam a door. He didn't even raise his voice. He just stood there, arms crossed, staring at the flat-screen TV that replaced my old bookshelf, and spoke as if stating a fact, not a threat. Every word carried a weight that I had never anticipated. A calculation, a cold detachment that made me question every choice I had made in raising him and trusting him with our family's legacy. I poured my coffee slowly, trying to steady my racing heart. Alex leaned casually against the counter, his expression neutral, yet his words were sharp and precise. You've built everything. Dad, but is it really yours? Or is it just a shadow of what could be taken away? His tone was polite, almost respectful, yet underneath lay an unmistakable undertone of challenge, a subtle reminder that the world I thought was secure was suddenly fragile. I looked at the framed photos along the wall, our vacations, birthdays, the milestones of decades carefully documented. Every smile, every laugh frozen in time, but suddenly, all of it felt like a fragile facade. Had I truly built a life worth protecting? Or had I created a stage upon which betrayal would soon perform? The realization struck me harder than any physical pain I had ever felt. In my office, papers strewn across the desk, Alex spoke again, calmly discussing estate planning, the management of our assets, and the possibility of delegation. Each suggestion, each casually mentioned precaution, now felt like a strategic probe, testing boundaries and measuring reactions. I realized that this wasn't concern. It was assessment, cold and deliberate, and I could no longer ignore the sense of danger simmering beneath his polished demeanor. My hands clenched involuntarily, veins tense with adrenaline. 35 years of business and boardroom dealings had taught me to read people, to spot deception, and to feel instinctively when something was wrong. And now I felt it clearly. This was no ordinary conversation. It was a test, a challenge, a warning. I had to act carefully. One wrong move could shatter not only my life, but the very foundation of trust in my family. I walked the backyard in silence, the autumn sun casting long shadows across the lawn, each step echoing the tension in my chest. Alex observed me quietly, his calm composure unbroken. I understood then that to uncover the truth, I had to provoke action, to see how far his ambition would go, to watch without interference and gather evidence before confronting him. It was dangerous, perhaps foolhardy, but I could not afford to ignore it. The following day, Alex suggested a visit to a scenic overlook, a place where the land dropped dramatically into the blue expanse of the Atlantic. He offered to take photos of us, seemingly innocuous. But every step toward that cliff brought an unnerving awareness to my mind. His movements were precise, rehearsed. There was a sharpness behind his gestures, an intent that I could not yet fully name. As I approached the edge, gripping the iron railing with careful calculation, my heart raced 40 feet below. Jagged rocks awaited any misstep. I could not afford one error. My past in the military and my years of experience in crisis management all merged in that moment. I knew I had to observe, to measure, and to remain alive. Every instinct screamed that danger was near, and I had to trust those instincts completely. Alex positioned his phone carefully, framing me against the sunlit horizon. Perfect angle, he said casually. I turned my back to him, pretending admiration for the view. My mind raced. This was the moment to see his true intentions. Yet I had to maintain the facade of trust and cooperation. One misstep could reveal my suspicion, or worse, trigger an unthinkable act. Maria, the housekeeper, had noticed something earlier when Alex was handling my wine. Her eyes now widened in silent warning as she peeked from the doorway. She dared not speak, yet her fear spoke volumes. I knew then that the threads of suspicion were not just in my mind. Others had seen the cracks in his calm demeanor, the calculated tension that I had begun to fear. He ground something into the wine, she whispered in broken English, her voice trembling. My stomach turned as the weight of her words sank in. This was no longer theory or intuition. This was evidence. Alex had attempted to manipulate circumstances to harm me, and now I had to act with precision, courage, and patience to protect my life and uncover the full extent of his intentions. I returned to the terrace, my arms trembling slightly as I gripped the railing. Alex approached casually, phone in hand, framing the shot for the sunset. Every step he took, every measured movement was a test, a probe of my composure. I forced myself to appear calm, to turn back and admire the ocean as if nothing was wrong, while my mind raced with strategies to protect myself and confirm his intentions without exposing my fear. Maria had positioned her small phone in a discreet corner, recording the terrace. Her hand shook slightly as she adjusted the angle. I knew this footage would be crucial. Every subtle gesture, every calculated move Alex made, would be captured. It was a silent ally, unseen, yet ready to reveal the truth at the right moment. I had to trust her vigilance, knowing it might be the only proof we would ever have. Alex's face remained calm, almost serene, as he raised the phone to take the perfect photo. Yet I could see the tension in his jaw, the sharpness in his eyes, the barely perceptible shift in his breathing. This was no ordinary moment. No casual gesture, it was a calculated maneuver, one that would have consequences if left unchecked. My body braced, every muscle alert, as the realization of his intent fully struck me. The reflection in the pool, water showed two men standing on opposite sides of a moral divide, father and son, trust and betrayal, safety and danger. I stared at my own reflection, the aged yet resilient face staring back at me, and knew that this was the defining moment. The decision to hold firm, to gather evidence, and to survive required every ounce of my attention, every experience I had ever accumulated, and the courage to act without hesitation. Benjamin, our family lawyer and lifelong friend, appeared quietly from the villa's interior. His presence brought a measure of calm, a reminder that we were not alone in this dangerous dance. I briefed him quickly, whispering the details. His eyes darkened as he processed the information, understanding immediately that our next steps needed precision, patience, and the element of strategy. There was no room for error, no margin for hesitation. In the study, with papers spread across, the desk and the soft glow of Benjamin's laptop lighting the room, we devised a plan. I would continue the terrace photo routine, remain close to Alex, and let him reveal his intentions with witnesses and recordings in place. Every move, every word had to be precise. We discussed contingencies, possible escape routes, and the psychological methods to ensure that he would not suspect our awareness until it was too late. Maria moved through the kitchen silently, placing wine glasses on the table with practiced care, yet her eyes betrayed concern. She had witnessed Alex's subtle manipulations and sensed the underlying danger. I gave her a brief nod of reassurance, signaling that we were aware and prepared. She understood immediately, and in that moment, I realized that true allies often spoke not with words, but with their presence and vigilance. On the terrace, the light of the setting sun painted the horizon in deep oranges and purples. Alex positioned the phone and gestured for me to turn. My heart raced. My instincts screamed for action, yet I forced myself to remain still, to comply while silently counting every second, every step, every breath. This was the moment to test his resolve, to confirm the danger while ensuring my survival, and to finally have proof of his intentions. I grasped the railing with white-knuckled determination. Below, jagged rocks and crashing waves awaited a misstep. Every fiber of my being focused on balance, patience, and observation. I reminded myself that this was not a moment of fear, but of calculated endurance. My mind cataloged every motion of Alex, storing each detail as evidence, preparing for the confrontation that would inevitably follow. From my perspective, Alex moved closer, phone in hand, framing the scene with deliberate care. I could see the subtle hints, the shift in weight, the tension in his fingers, the almost imperceptible narrowing of his eyes. This was not casual photography. This was a test, a potential trap. I forced myself to breathe evenly, to remain present, to anticipate his next move without betraying my awareness. Maria's hidden vantage point captured every detail with quiet diligence. Her hands clutched the recording device. Her eyes wide, reflecting both fear and determination. I knew that her vigilance was crucial. Without her, our proof would be circumstantial at best. Together, silently and strategically, we prepared to catch Alex's actions in the act, ensuring that justice could follow without uncertainty. Alex's hand moved subtly, an almost imperceptible gesture, yet one that revealed intent. Every muscle in my body tensed, every past experience of negotiation, confrontation, and crisis management converged in a single instant. I remained perfectly still, forcing calm over fear, knowing that a single false move could destroy our carefully constructed plan and put me in grave danger. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden light over the Atlantic, I stood firm on the terrace. Benjamin and Maria observed discreetly from hidden positions, silent guardians of truth and justice. Every second stretched, every breath held in suspense, as I waited for Alex to reveal his intentions fully. In that moment, clarity and patience became my greatest weapons, and the foundation of survival rested on the choice to act wisely, not impulsively. Alex stepped closer than necessary. I could feel his presence behind me, his breath measured, controlled. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken intent. I did not turn. I did not react. Every instinct urged me to move, yet I stayed still, knowing that fear would only give him power. Silence, I realized, was now my strongest defense. In that moment, I understood something clearly. Alex believed I was weak because I was old. He mistook age for fragility, experience for hesitation. What he failed to see was that 73 years had taught me patience, and patience had taught me how to survive when others rushed toward destruction. His hand brushed my shoulder lightly, almost affectionately. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like a caring gesture from a son to his father, but I felt the calculation behind it. That single touch confirmed everything. This was no misunderstanding. This was intent. From her hidden position, Maria held her phone steady, her heart pounding. She knew, as I did, that the next few seconds would decide everything. Her courage in that moment quiet. Yunzin was greater than any loud act of heroism. I shifted my weight deliberately, stepping just far enough from the railing to remove his advantage, but not enough to alert him. It was a calculated move. I born not of strength, but of awareness. Alex noticed, but too late to change what was already unfolding. For the first time, the calm mask on Alex's face cracked. His jaw tightened. His eyes hardened. He realized then that something had changed, that I was no longer the passive figure he believed he controlled. Power, once questioned, begins to collapse. Step away from him, Alex. Benjamin's voice cut through the silence like steel. He emerged from the shadows, phone raised, recording everything. In that instant, the illusion of control shattered. Witnesses had arrived. Truth had stepped into the light. Alex took a step back, then another. Anger flashed across his face, followed quickly by fear. He knew now he had been seen, recorded, exposed. The trap he had set so carefully had closed around him instead. The sound of sirens echoed through the night as flashing lights painted the villa walls in red and blue. I stood quietly, wrapped in a blanket. Watching my son speak to the authorities, I felt no triumph, only sorrow, for the man he had chosen to become. As dawn broke, the ocean lay calm once more. I sat alone, older than I had been the day before, yet strangely lighter. Trust once broken never returns the same, but truth has a way of restoring balance, and in surviving silence, I had reclaimed my life, not through force but through wisdom.